Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call us to order at 9:05. And we could please have the land acknowledgement from Trustee Poitras.
Okay, hello. Welcome to our division office located on the traditional land and territory of the Niitsitapi, the Piikani, Kainai, and Siksika, the Blackfoot people, within the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. We'll now stand for O Canada. Thank you, Horace Allen, for that lovely O Canada. Moving on to our consent agenda. Recommendation that the December 17th, 2024 consent agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Toon? Anybody have anything they want to pull from the agenda? Or the consent, the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Emergent changes to the agenda. Recommendation that the December 17th, 2024 regular board meeting agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Yegas? Any changes to the agenda? Trustee Gimber?
Thank you. There was one thing I was wondering if it was an oversight that it wasn't on the agenda. We spoke at the meeting of the whole regarding the Christmas concert list and approvals, and it's not on here, so I'm wondering if it should be on here. I thought it was going to be brought forward by the chair and vice chair.
Okay, we can definitely throw that on there. Yep, it probably was an oversight. There was such a short turnaround in between those meetings that it probably just got missed. Well, it obviously got missed. So we will put it on, we'll make it F6. Yeah, we'll make it an action item for sure, yeah. Okay. Nikki, are you okay with the list? Okay. Okay, so that'll be F6. Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none. All in recommendation that the December 17th regular board meeting agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as amended. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. Recommendation that the Board of Trustees declare if they have any conflicts of interest relating to the agenda items from the December 17th, 2024 board meeting, and if so, should declare them. Seeing none. All right, moving on to our presentations. Career practitioner support, Letty Crossgree. Hi, good, thank you. Good morning. We'll provide an update on the career practitioner support in Livingstone Range School Division. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How's that for volume? Okay. I'm just put my timer on because I want to be succinct today. Are you going to roll through for me? Okay, let's carry on. This is my update. So these are some goals that we work on. Career Services has changed since I started in 2018-2019 school year, when there were 3 of us with 2 schools each, and then went to 2 with 3 schools each, and now I'm the sole career practitioner for our division, providing services to 6 schools in addition to the virtual school and outreach schools. So things have changed, but we are still providing these awesome services to our students, and I'll just explain how that's been going the last few months. The first goal is really that LRSD families, parents, and students are aware of the variety of services that are offered. This fall, I decided to implement a series of career chats for the confused, concerned, or curious, trying to cover all bases. Started with 5 different presentations that were offered weekly in September and October, based around different aspects of post-secondary studies. So high school students understand Alberta graduation requirements. There's a whole team of us working towards that. I think there's it's always beneficial to have as many eyes on students and their progress towards graduation as possible, and avoid that horrible possibility that students have 99 credits and don't get their diploma at the end of it. I like to connect with students in as many ways as possible. That can be in classroom presentations, individual appointments, and events and outings. So these are pictures of students doing different things, going to the Aesthetic Institute in Calgary, going to the University of Calgary Medical School, and checking out what the future could hold for them. There we go. High school students take advantage of individualized career planning services and unique exploration opportunities. Last year, around this time, I took a group of students, rounded up the artsies from as many schools as I could take, and we spent the day at Alberta University of the Arts. Had a wonderful time, even got to do some actual art projects. And then in March, Livingstone School had put in an application and received, out of 50 applications in the province, they selected 20, and they selected Livingstone School in Lumbreck to go to Regenerate in Canmore for an all expenses paid weekend. Super fun. So we have now submitted another application for this year's conference in Calgary called Generate. So we hope we will have a combined team of the 2 students you see with the little birds and 2 other students from FP Walsh. We're doing a combined approach this year. So I feel like that's a great gift that I can give the students, to spend quality time with them and really get to know them and stay in touch with them, because I think they will be amazing mentors to students who come after them. Are some of these specific opportunities. I've talked about a couple of things. This fall was really busy. We had ELA, which is Education Liaison Association of Alberta, come to 5 of our schools. The only one that they didn't go to was Livingstone, and Livingstone had the opportunity to go and visit the ELA post-secondary event in either Crow's Nest Pass or Pincher Creek. It was very successful. We had students even as young as grade 7, grade 8, and I talked to them and said, do you think you're worthy of this opportunity to talk to post-secondaries? And they all said a resounding yes. And I said, well, you're more than welcome to be here and just soak it in. And it can be overwhelming for students, but I think we need to just schedule those in every single year so students have that opportunity without having to leave their school building. But we also like to leave the school building. The photo on the bottom left is a student from Fort Macleod who applied the day that we went to Olds College and was accepted into a program there. Really had no intention of doing that at the day, but decided to get caught up in the momentum and put in an application. Very exciting. We were also at Olds in May for their Discovery Day. And then the bottom photo is a session that I put together in Crow's Nest Pass with employers from the area and also volunteer opportunities so students could figure out what they wanted to do in the summer months. We are actually tomorrow taking a group of students from 5 different schools to Lethbridge Polytechnic for their annual trade exploration day. So we'll be checking out, students have signed up for different areas, including wind turbine, electrical, pipe trades, just to see what that all entails. We'll spend a fun-filled day there tomorrow. In the fall, we had at Pincher Creek Hospital an RPAP skill day, and we have another one planned for Crow's Nest Pass in May. I mentioned before the University of Calgary Medical School, they do a Discovery Day every fall, and there's subsidies to help us with transportation, so we always like to gather students interested in healthcare careers. They will only allow us to bring 3 students per school. We want to fill those spots. And then I'm a big fan of youth summits, so we participated in Inside Education, hope to get a chance to do that this year. And I just came back from a weekend in Kananaskis with a couple of students at CRIN, which is the Canadian Rockies Youth Network, learning about forestry. Other opportunities, we've had a huge increase, as you probably know, in our dual credit registrations for semester 2. That's going great. We just have to make sure students take that seriously and do well. These are a couple pictures of students who've been participating in the Intro to Trades and Intro to Construction Trades, loving it. And I'm also a big promoter of cool things. So students taking advantage of opportunities that can enhance their growth as a student. Had a couple of students go to Costa Rica last summer and come back with Bio 30. One did Bio 30, one did English 30-1. It's the Ontario curriculum. So they got their credentials in 3.5 weeks and had a holiday at the same time. Explore is a program that I love where students can go to Quebec or another province in Canada and get some cultural experience and language acquisition in their second language. Junior Forest Rangers, love that. Great summer job for students who like the outdoors. And Pueblo Inglés, a student did that a few years ago where they go to Spain and volunteer to teach kids English in a summer camp. Skip that card time. Okay. I think we can skip on through that. These are just some current trends I'm observing, that there is a need for increased collaboration with school staff. There are things that I just can't do on my own, so I have enlisted the help of our principals and support staff and teachers to help me with referring students to know about the services, advertise them, and to register for events and tours. And students are starting to get it, that when they contact me for an appointment, they need to follow up because I might not be back at their school for another few days. So they are understanding that appointments are filling up fast and that it's worthwhile to keep those appointments and work on their career. This is a little survey that I just sent out to all of our grade 12s in Livingstone Range, and 114 of them have submitted their responses. It was very brief, just looking at who is out there, who's responding, and pretty good representation from a variety of our schools. A nice thing is that almost 100% are considering post-secondary education at some point within the next 5 years. In terms of how soon they want to go to post-secondary, majority would like to roll right in after grade 12. And then the next group is looking at a 1 to 2 year break before starting into post-secondary. And when asked which type of post-secondary they want to commit to, majority is looking at either a 2 to 3 year diploma or a 4-year degree. Predominantly, our students want to stay in the province of Alberta to complete their education. And we can see what the concerns are for our students. Money comes up a lot, and I'm really trying to do the best job I can at informing students that it's good to get an education about funding well before grade 12, just to set a budget and discover what it's actually going to cost and where that money can come from. But lots of students are looking for my help to find out if they have the right requirements. So I always say my job is to help students save time and money. I don't want them to apply for a program that they don't meet the requirements and they're just going to spend money to apply and be rejected. These are some questions. This is somewhat comical to see the variety of questions that I'm asked. And the little photo of the girls up in my office in Clare's home, they said they wanted to be in a photo in my presentation. So that's it. They like to climb in there. So the leading question these days is, when are you here next? They know that I'm the sole provider of career services and they want to get in there. My typical response is, I'm here now. Let's chat now. Let's see what we can accomplish today. Well, finally, I don't get a lot of fan mail, but I wanted to include these comments from Brian Burns. It's my first year working with Pincher Creek as a school and first year working with Brian, and he had some very nice things to add to my presentation. So looking at my clock, I think I am within my time frame, so we can move on to the next slide and wrap things up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Letty. Is there any questions? Trustee Tarchin?
Yeah.
Hi, Letty. Letty used to be my next door neighbor until just recently, and it was not unusual for me to meet her husband at the fence and say, "Where's Letty?" And would say, "She's off with some students somewhere," wherever that was. And clearly, he was not lying. You are a busy lady and do a lot of really cool things with your kids. You shared with us your student challenges. Are there any challenges for you other than the fact you're the sole provider that you'd like to share with us, knowing that our role is governance and advocacy, but yeah, we just always want to hear that part as well.
Thanks, Kathy. It has certainly been a challenge the last few months, and I repeatedly say to myself, I do what I can when I can. I love this role. I love what it can do. It's powerful, and I take that position very seriously, that I want to be seen by students as a person who has good information, who can research, who can connect them with opportunities and people. And that in itself is fatiguing, because it is a lot of responsibility. I don't want to be the person that's referred to, oh, that career practitioner was horrible, gave me horrible advice, years down the road. I don't want to be that. So I think the time constraint and the geographical restrictions are always going to be a challenge. And so, if there's an opportunity for me to have a different focus, I would be open to that. But at this stage, I'm managing.
Thank you. Trustee Yegas?
Just on to that, how do you decide which of the high school or which of the schools you're going to go to?
I'm winging it, to be honest. I set a schedule every week and send it out to about 30 different people. So the principals, vice principals, support staff, front desk people at each school, and outline where I think I will be going for that week. And not hearing any complaints, I carry on with that plan. I try to get to every school every week, sometimes for half a day, sometimes for a full day. And if there are more students requesting me, I will make more time for that particular school. So go where the need is greatest, where those requests are.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Poitras?
I just wondered about, I love all the program, it's so much. Like, I get why it's a lot for one person. Do you feel like you see a lot of the same students going to the different events, like ELSS, is that what it was? Yeah. And like to the Olds College and stuff like that? Or do you feel like it's like new kids that you're seeing every time? And like, how do kids, do they apply for something like that to go? Do they just sign up? Are they picked by teachers based on credential? Just kind of wondering. I know that in our division, a lot of times parents are like, I don't know anything about these programs, which, we send the information as much as we can. So I'm just wondering how these students are chosen or apply for these different opportunities, and where parents and students can find this type of information.
It varies by the program. Sometimes I hear, with the example of tomorrow going to Lethbridge Polytechnic, that filled up within a day. And so I sent it out to all of our CTS teachers and principals and said, please help me. We have to have representation at this event. And they just sent me names of students and I signed them all up. So because the time was so short, that's what we did for that one. Yeah, I update every school website. I have the same information and keep it up to date. Had a list of all of the fall activities on the website. And then Melanie Husenga has been amazing to work with. I'll just say, Melanie, help me. I need to get this out right away. And she does that for me. I find those things really slow me down, the advertising part. So the more help I can have to get that out so that parents, and I know I'm a parent of a LRSD student myself, and I know it's difficult sometimes to stay on top of everything. We try.
Perfect, thanks. We have time for one more question. Trustee Kimber?
Thank you. I'm thinking about the dual credit offering that's like at Lethbridge, and one of the concerns I heard expressed was transportation to it. Is there any options for transportation to help students get to these places?
The transportation requirement is for the trades programming. So the majority of the dual credit offerings at Lethbridge Polytechnic are completely online asynchronous. The trades ones require students to be on campus for their lab portion let's say 7 to 9 Fridays in a semester. So there hasn't been an opportunity for us to provide busing for students, to my knowledge. Mostly parents arrange to carpool or take their own students, or in some cases, students can drive themselves. So that has been a barrier for some students, but I've found the few years since that started, it's been extremely popular. So students are finding ways, they're prioritizing that. They're getting high school credits, they're getting hands-on experience. That has been really a game changer for some students that were really at risk of leaving school early. They've decided to hash it out and often do more than one session of intro to trades. They'll do intro to trades and then intro to transportation trades or intro to culinary trades. So yeah, if we could solve that transportation problem, I think that parents would really be open and accepting to that. Would be a plus.
Perfect, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your presentation today, Letty. Next up on our presentations, we have our off-campus programming. Rob Charchin and Eliza Gross, off-campus coordinators, will provide an update on off-campus education throughout the Livingstone Range School Division. Welcome.
How is everyone this morning? Good, good. Perfect. Well, it's great to see everyone again. It's been a little bit of a hiatus since I've been here, so I'm super thrilled to be back and be back in this new role. Working with Rob is an absolute pleasure. Rob created such an amazing, robust program, dynamic, lots of students. And then at the end of last year, we can go to the next one, we had a bit of a revisit. And I am very grateful to be taking on the partnership role with Rob and being able to focus my attention in the east-west corridor. And so between Crowsnest Pass, Livingstone, Pincher Creek, working with the Gateway School, and then also sharing our virtual students. And then Rob is able to take the north-south corridor. So it allows for us to maximize our time to meet the needs of the students, limiting our travel, and just being able to work together in a partnership and team that I get to learn from the legend. So I appreciate that. I don't want to build his ego too much, but it is pretty awesome. The relationships that he has created, and now that I'm able to work with our schools and our students. So as Rob and Chad looked at how LRSD wanted to provide a safe and a manageable off-campus coordinating program, they created the seat cap. And so I think that's been presented already. We are making sure that we are meeting the needs of our high priority students. And so we're connecting with our admin through every school, making sure that we have those students primarily that need the credits. And so that's making sure that we have that graduation rate that's needed, and we connect with them at the beginning of the year. What we did recognize is right now, it's not one student to every seat. So we saw that if we have 5 students at McDonald's, that's considered 1 seat. So we're really looking at the seats in more of a fluid way so that we can meet more students' needs. So our green certificate students, we also wanted to clarify that those students have a really unique opportunity in the sense that once they register and we do our site visit, we make sure we have that hazard safety inspection with the family. They're registered. It's a little less involvement and assessment because the Green Certificate program does all the examinations. They provide the material. And so we obviously still continue to connect with the students, but we're able to offer 3 students per 1 seat in the Green Certificate. So when you look at the numbers, they're just a little more fluid and unique, but we're being mindful of making sure it's really still manageable. Once again, safety being our primary key focus, but also making sure we're meeting all the students' needs. So, yeah.
And an example,
Yeah, please.
example of that is how many students, I was surprised the other day when we were sharing data, how many students do you have at the Pincher Creek Colony?
6. Yeah, so we have 6 students.
Six Green Certificate students.
Yeah, 6
Right?
students.
So that counts, according to that ratio, it counts as 2.
Absolutely, which is really, really nice. And it's exciting to have our students at the colony being excited about sharing their knowledge of ag and being assessed on it. So, yeah.
It's never been uncommon for me to have, say, especially in a place like Nanton and JT Foster, to have 2, maybe 3 siblings all taking Green Certificate, maybe work experience, but all in the same area, in the same family farm. And it's been, I guess I could use the word loosely. It's like a family tradition. It's not uncommon to be a family tradition that all the kids are going to take Green Certificate.
Yeah. So, yeah. You can go to the next one, please. So as you've been able to review this, we just wanted to kind of recap our numbers that we have and some cool we placements, we being work experience. But there is a wide diversity of students' interest across the entire division. Some schools more than others, but the exciting part is we're meeting the need or the interest at every school. And so we haven't had to turn students away, which has been fantastic. So it's, yeah. Our RAP students, so the Registered Apprenticeship Program, I am just so excited to be learning more. I am not a tradesperson, and I am learning so much. This morning on the way here, I was actually on the call with a fellow from Lethbridge who were removing the restrictions for our high school students so he can register for his period 1 trade theory. So those people who have gone through the RAP program, they understand that, and I'm excited about it for him to continue his education. And I'm just learning so many pieces, and it's really neat to be chatting with Journey people throughout all the different areas, and it's really fun. So I'm revitalized and renewed, which is also great. So we have RAP students across the entire division. As you can see here, areas focusing on welding. The municipality of the Crow's Nest Pass actually reached out to us and said, hey, we have a millwright position. Do you have a student who is interested? And I said, oh, thank you so much for connecting. We're super excited. We do not place students. Step one. That's really important for you to know that. But we can reach out and see if there's students that might be interested and then have them connect with you. So we're really excited that that position is just starting up this month, and they'll be working with the ski hill and seeing how things go there. So it's neat. Yeah.
In communities like where you're not seeing a RAP student, is that just because we don't have partnerships right now, or people reaching out to us, or maybe because there was no students interested, like WCCHS, right, has none here?
Yep, not right now, which is,
Currently.
it's a little bit of an anomaly, because
Yeah.
typically we'll have 3. If this was June, I would say, oh, we've got 3, because we've
Okay.
got 2 in the works.
Right, it's
But
not.
usually, yeah, to answer your question specifically, it's just an anomaly,
Okay,
basically, yeah.
so there are opportunities and partnerships there as well, just not
I was,
happening right
her
this
and I were
moment.
meeting yesterday
Okay.
at Chad's place, beautiful place, where's Chad? Beautiful place, lots of windows.
Yeah.
And I said, in my experience, in 10 years, I've never, ever met a RAP student that's willing to take the direction that I give them. And it's very basic to begin, like, a potential RAP student. It could be very, very basic, like get a clean shirt with a collar, wash your face, get the resume, talk to Letty, or I can help you, right? And then go to the work site every month and show that you really want the job. If they're willing to do that, they get placements. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think too, building the networks within the communities has been a really neat opportunity. Some folks that I've chatted with are keen for the spring, so it's a seasonal piece. Some are finding that they don't have the workload that they thought they might need, or just finding that right position is tricky yet, but yeah.
Yeah,
so-
just one little final note is, maybe I've said this before, but you know, you meet with a lot of people, you get a lot of details, right? The one thing about work experience is that we can place somebody. So if I have a student say, I want to work at McDonald's, or I don't have a job yet, can you place me? I can do that. With, of course, the cooperation of McDonald's or wherever, even HS. But with RAP, they have to be hired. That's actually part of the Apprenticeship Act, so that's a law. That's not something we can work around. So we don't normally have the kind of power with businesses is to go and say, hire this kid.
Yeah.
Well, we could maybe vouch for them, but ultimately the kid has to get hired. Yeah, and do a good job. You know somebody like that.
Yeah. Excellent, thanks. And yeah, these are green certificate numbers. So it's interesting that you spoke to the fact that there's no students there, in some of the areas. The Crow's Nest Pass is one area that I was trying my best, but just wasn't quite the interest or the accessibility even to ag as much as I thought there would be. So our green certificate numbers have definitely, I would say, increased over this semester, and we look forward to them continually growing. If you don't know a ton about the Green Certificate program, I will speak that I have a bias on it. I think it is the most remarkable way to assess students' knowledge and awareness of something they're already involved in. It's a sit-down interview, talk about core competencies. It's a sit-down interview where you sit with an examiner, you talk about what you know, about what you've learned, and about even how to do practices in different ways. And so it's a great opportunity for our students. We are really special in LRSD to have ag as one of our areas that our students are part of or exposed to. And so it's a great chance for them to earn 16 high school credits for work that they're already doing. And these are students that are getting up and filling water troughs first thing in the morning, or coming home from late night basketball practices and still having to go check cows, whatever that might be. I think it's awesome that they get that opportunity. So our focus right now for students is cow, calf, equine, feedlot, swine, poultry, dairy, and crops. And like Rob said, I'm excited to have some new Pitch Creek Colony students on board this year. So we have a large crew of students that will be headed to Lethbridge Polytechnic for their examination on February the 11th and 12th. So we wish them the best of luck.
Part of what I think makes Livingston Range School Division special. And it doesn't come without its challenges, mind you, but is that it is not uncommon for us to have one student who's doing the cow-calf program maybe.
Yep.
They're doing an apprenticeship at the same time, and they've got some work experience somewhere else. So they're in all three programs. And that's really kind of unique to Livingston Range School Division. Other school divisions, of course, that have rural roots, sure, that's happening too. But when I go and meet with other off-campus coordinators, especially from the city, they often, we exchanging information, we're talking, we're learning from each other, and they often kind of go, wow, that's remarkable. You could be, in one day, you could go visit this student in 3 different locations. And her and I were just talking. It is possible that they could be working on their green survey program west of Highway 22. And then their wrap is taking place maybe in the Nanton area, and their work experience could be taking place in the High River area. We have a huge geography, and that makes us unique and special. And like I said, it doesn't come without its challenges. I go through a lot of tires. Yeah, it's very cool.
Awesome. So yeah, some other things, I guess, cool things, as Letty would say here, cool things that Rob and I have been part of, or that we're looking at. I was able to go to the MECAP meeting, and that was held in Claire's home. And it's a group really organized by Natalie Gibson and Bev Thornton. And so looking at industry and how our students can be involved with that. And Daryl presented at that meeting, which was great. But it was really interesting to just speak with industry and how we can have our youth involved. There are some excitements, and there's also some complexities and some challenges. And so I think just having everybody be aware of what we are offering here in Livingston Range, and like you said, Lacey, is sharing all that information out as much as possible, but folks also can reach to it and ask for it. But making those connections is the most important. So that was a great meeting. Also was able to attend the CAS 6 meeting with at the Palliser School Division office with a number of different OCCs, but also there were principals, admin, teachers, a whole diverse group of folks there, and looking at core competencies also within the COM curriculum and into even more so into our off-campus programming and how we can help our students. So that was a great discussion. Rob has done a fantastic job of making connections with the Chamber of Commerce, I know, here in Fort Macleod, and we're continuing to do that. I'm working on that with Pincher Creek and the Christmas Pass also. And then I was able to be part of a job shadow day in Matthew Halton, sorry. And it was a great opportunity to set up some opportunities for students to get out into the workforce, grade 10 students who are just dabbling in whether or not they're finding a job and what that looks like, and had learned a lot about hair salons and hairstyling, and had a student up there in the top corner. She was able to observe shoulder and knee surgery all day in the OR. And I just went, wow, that sounds amazing. So she had to go through the whole confidentiality agreements and some training beforehand. But it was really neat. We also had a student who was working with Boulder Welding in Pincher Creek, and he will now be starting with the RAP program. As the journeyman there said, please, can I sign this student up? He's awesome. So yeah, so go to the next one.
I wanted to sort of recognize 3 site managers. These would be, we call them site supervisors in our business, but these are generally managers of a particular business. I didn't want to necessarily single out anybody over anybody else, but in this case, there's 3 special situations going on. And here's the first one I want to speak to. I won't be too long. Through me, Livingston Range School Division is part of a pilot project with this lady right here, where they're taking in some students that have significant challenges and bringing them, including them into their team. There's uniforms provided for these students. They get a lunch cart just like everybody else, and slowly they're going to build up their skills so that they're integrated right into the regular sort of team. And then if that works out well, they'll be offered jobs. And I think that's really terrific. The pilot project is is that her owner contacted me. I helped facilitate the placement. We talked a little bit about some of the legal implications and what the role of myself is going to be. But the pilot project leads to then an approval from the Southwest manager of McDonald's, I guess the regional manager, and approving such situations with all the McDonald's. So Claire's Home, Pincher's got two. Mm-hmm. Yeah, is that it? And here. Yeah, that's kind of exciting. Right, yeah. Yeah, great person. Yeah. Rachel from IGA and Claire's Home. IGA and Claire's Home, this is my 10th or 11th year in this role. They take students without asking any questions at all. They just look at students as potential. And they take students without any sort of, like I said, questions or prejudice, or they just take them in and say, we're gonna work with what this student has. We can be patient, let's go to work, let's try. Just huge amount of compassion. And this lady has put hours and hours in. You know, I guess I've just been inspired to say, she's a teacher. I show up and go, is everything okay? What can I do? But she's doing the real leg, she's in the trenches. You know, I've seen students have little or big freakouts with her, and she's cool. You need to go? Do you need to go outside for a while? Can we hook you up with a staff member? Can we help you? Can we work with you where you're at? I've had students not behave well there. And the management has a talk with them and says, how about you go home? We talk about it. We'll call Rob. We'll work this out. We want you to come back. We want this to be a learning opportunity. We don't want to, they're not taking it from any sort of punitive measures or punitive model. I think that's really special. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. There's one more. Well, yes, you can see. Yeah, just her willingness to talk to me. And that's not always something that's easy. I show up in someone's business, they're busy, you're nodding, right? Right? I'm not here to sell you anything, I'm here to check up, but can I have, and you know, when we have conversations, and they, just like these conversations, they're planned for 5 minutes, then they go into 20, and there's customers coming in, and she's having to adjust to me being there, but it's about helping kids. That's why she's giving us the time. So while these people aren't on our payroll, there are teachers. And I just thought I'd recognize three, just three. There's lots more, of course. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We have time just for maybe 2 quick questions. Trustee Poitras?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I have kids coming up, and I have one in grade 12 and one in grade 10 and 8 and 6. Lots of kids, but they've all benefited from some of these programs that we've talked about here today. As you're getting your training and Rob is introducing you to this beautiful creature he's created and nurtured and loved, how do you train for a job like this? Is it just over time? And then I just wondered, when you showed like the north-south and the east-west that you guys are doing, is this going to be kind of divided that way going forward in the future to, you know, mitigate some of that travel and the workload, or is that just during a training period? Yeah, I just didn't know like how long you train for, and then what that looks like in the future, as far as will it be both of you or 2 people, or is that just part of the onboarding bit by bit until you've got it all there?
I appreciate the question, thank you. The training for myself, I appreciate my background and my experience being with Livingstone Range for the last 20 odd years and in multiple roles, but definitely my experience with high school has been great, and my connections of understanding course codes and credit needs and those pieces, the invaluable and the training that I get from Rob and our daily, weekly connections and conversations has been remarkable. Meeting further professional development that I will be seeking out and will have already connected with is connecting with other OCCs across the province. And so had an opportunity even a few years ago at ULEAD to make some connections with different folks from Palliser and making sure that I see their perspectives and I can reach out and understand what other divisions are doing to make it see what we're doing and highlight what we're doing well, but also see the opportunities in other areas. So as for the future, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I appreciate the onboarding and the team and partnership that we have now, and it's working well now.
Just a note on that, just sort of copy what she said. Yeah, exactly. And as I've learned to make connections and friendships with businesses and farmers, ranchers, I'm learning from them all the time too, because student safety is such a high priority with Livingston Range School Division. I'm really proud of that. Believe me, when I meet with other, and there's a, maybe where I'm in a situation with other off-campus coordinators, there's maybe 10 or 12 of us. I'm very, very proud of Livingston Range and how much emphasis we put on student safety. So that's part of my professional development. And I'm going to, if I have the trust and the time to ask a rancher or somebody, show me how this piece of equipment works. Because I'm a city boy. Ask Trustee Charchin, I barely know how to run a broom. So me learning about how the baler works, or how the combine intake works, or how do you manage the livestock, it's crucial. And I take advantage of those opportunities. And there's been many, many large construction companies also that will let me sit in on the orientations for the students. So I go through some of the basic, boot camp safety training as well. Very beneficial for me, very beneficial, because I'm looking at it from a off-campus point of view, a safety supervisor point of view. Thanks.
Okay, last question, Trustee Tu.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate the hard work that you both do. I've also had students that have benefited from these programs and seen the amazing change that it has helped with them, but also leading to the work and future opportunities. I think that that's an important thing to help students find what their passion is and test drive those careers before they get in something that they might not want to do in the future. My question would be, we've had discussions about possibility of moving to a 4-day week. Just wondering what, from the roles that you see, could be some opportunities there with extra time. Could it lead to more students having the opportunity to do some of these programs, or for maybe completion rates or success rates to go up with if students had more time to do that? Just in general, what you see would be some of the benefits maybe of moving to that.
Thank you for the question. With the perspective also of Livingston School running their Flex Fridays, I've seen the benefits of a 4-day high school week for a number of years now. We have many high school students that are taking that opportunity to still maintain credits and to have extended learning, but whether they're doing that through the work experience green certificate, and it's created a great opportunity. My daughter's one of them, and so she worked on Fridays, and that was part of her opportunity. She maxed out on her work experience credits before I took on the role, but under Rob, and it does give students an opportunity to be getting a taste of what they might do in the future, but also learning those core competencies that we talked about of, time management and communication and fulfilling responsibilities. So yeah, I do see lots of benefits there.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your questions.
Thank you both very much. All right, next on our agenda is international education. Chad Kuzik, Associate Superintendent, Programs and Innovation, will update the Board of Trustees on the international education program within the division. Please take it away, Chad.
Check, test, maybe. Move my back, there we go. All right, here we go. So how much time do I have, Nikki, if I can just ask real quick? 7 minutes, okay. And I've been here before. I'm accustomed to speed chat here. So there's our crew. There's our group right there. As you can see, they're from all over the world. Nothing makes you smile more than 3 hours on a bus to go see a museum. But they were a great bunch of kids, and we had that's our opening activity there. So that's kind of the pieces that got us started, and a good look of what some of the kids you'll see in your school. So next slide. As you can see, we're very diverse. We have students from all over, Brazil, France, Belgium, China, Germany, Italy, Mexico, Spain, Thailand, Turkey, Vietnam, and Japan. Well represented in each part of those. Still, most of our students come from Germany and Spain, but we have a number of students from all over the country and all over every continent. So just to give you an idea of where they're coming from, the kids. So we try to break them up as best we can into 10 students approximately every high school, not to overload. But based on homestays, sometimes we have to have greater than that, 10 to 12 students per. And as you can see, FP Walsh in Willow Creek, we definitely have more than 12 students in those spaces. And trying to, again, you'll see one of our goals to try to find spots out west to take some of our kids. Again, homestays is a big part of this. But so far, so good. They've settled in very nicely this year, and we've seen lots of excellent academic marks on the first report card, so that's good. And knock on wood, not a lot of incidences that have come to my attention so far. So very excited about that. But they are junior high, or they are high school students, and yeah, that's just a part of the program for sure. If you go back, just one back, we have 60 total students, 47 FTE. This is shaping up to be one of our larger years for sure. We're still continuing to take students into the 4-month and into the programs. We're getting really near the end here, but it's surprising to see the increases we've seen so far. So we're excited to see that number right now, and working with other school divisions as well has been very helpful for us. So yeah, I want to bring that to our attention. The highlights, I have to say the summer program at Peaks Campus was excellent. It was the first time we ran approximately 10, 11 students into Peaks from Japan. I was able to go visit that high school this fall and build that relationship and look forward to that continuing on for years to come. But it was our first one, and the students appeared to enjoy it, and the staff did as well. But what's interesting, this is an Alberta accredited school, so we're providing credits for the kids as well, and this is school for them. And so it's an interesting path that we're looking to go down. So super excited about that. Like I said, Drumheller was great. Unfortunately, it was Flames game, not an Oilers game, but that's okay. We had a really good opportunity for students to participate. And it's a little bit almost like a team bonding, if you will, with their international crew, to be able to be together and do those trips. And so from both those were a success. We plan to do a Banff trip here in the spring, followed by one to be announced, but usually it'll be an activity, a local activity in the spring here in Livingstone Range. So those are the things that come and some of the highlights that come as well. Again, our goals will continue to try to maintain that 45 FTE and keep that balance, and look to move to 50 and above if we can. But looking at that increasing student enrollment, diversification of language markets, like we mentioned, to have a really good representation of everyone across the world. So host families out west will continue, and hopefully even with this presentation will make people aware that we have opportunity for people that are willing to host in the west these students. And we have excellent homestay coordinators be able to support that and be able to get you set up if you choose to do that. So again, we're limited by the number of homestays in the program, which we always will be, and we're working on that absolutely. But out west, we'd like to put a little focus on that for sure for this year and next. And something other exciting that's happening, but it's a goal, is when the students arrive, to have an ambassador at that school for them, a leadership opportunity for students. So working with the Livingstone leaders, looking at creating that ambassador at the school for the students, a friendly face to say hi to when they arrive. So we hope to have that established by the end of the year. That's almost 7 minutes, I think. I ran through that pretty quick. So questions or concerns?
You did that very well, thanks. We probably have time just for a couple questions. Trustee Poitras?
I just want to thank you and Livingston Range. And I know the international program goes back a significant time, but having these students in our schools is huge for our students. But these students really become a huge part of our entire communities. Fort Macleod is very aware of those 15 students. They are volunteering at all kinds of things. They want to be involved. They're playing on the sports teams. They're at different activities in the community. We had a big event on Main Street and I saw 7 different exchange students. I'm like, are you just out enjoying it? No, we're helping at the petting zoo and and it has a huge impact on our communities. I know other communities as well, but it's a wonderful thing for our school, for our students, to get to know these international students. And I know students have gone and visited, students who have stayed with them, and they make these lifelong connections. But it's such a wonderful thing. And aside from homestays, is there any other barriers that we as trustees can help advocate for or help overcome? Or is that really the biggest one, is finding more homestays and educating families on what that looks like and how they can get involved?
Thank you for that. And you did help with that comment. The international students bring a lot of benefits to the community and the school. And we love to hear that and spread that word to everyone. Homestays is the biggest for sure. And then the carrying capacity of the school is the other piece, that we can't overload grade 12s or grade 11s, and every school can only take so many based on class sizes, depending on what it is and depending what the student needs are. Some need academics, some don't as much. Advocating as you did would be very helpful, and with the community as well. It's something that supports the program and the students and everyone that's visiting here. So that would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have just a couple more questions. Trustee Dune?
Thank you. Really appreciate your presentation. Echo what Trustee Poitras has said. I think that the culture in our schools has greatly benefited from what those international students bring, and the bonds that they make with the students and the families. It's just great. I had a conversation with somebody who was a homestay, that their family member was a homestay, and from that family and from that connection, they too became homestaying families. And so it just really runs deep in those roots for those that bring those students into our communities and into their homes. One of the questions that I had was, you talked about this is one of the higher numbers, and in the past there had kind of been not a cap, but a maximum because of capacity of the schools, like you talked about. Is there a number that is kind of like the ceiling, that is kind of where you feel that we can't go about just because of capacity?
Excellent question. And again, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Yeah, we have a 3-year plan. We try to grow accordingly. So this year it'd be 55 would be our cap for this year. And next year we'd look at 65. And then we grow accordingly, working with the schools, seeing what's available. We may bring that number down based on what's available at the schools. But again, it's very diverse and complex, as some schools, some students coming don't need all the academic courses that others would. Validation's a big part of it, how many students we can bring that we have to validate and to make sure they have certain academic courses certain times, because we rotate some of our 30- courses, some of our schools. Some of those there's only so many schools I can place those students, and that would limit that number as well too. So there is some complexities with rural environments. So it really depends on the applications that come in. But as far as growth and not overwhelming the schools, we try to grow sustainably and host families as well, based on what we can project we may be able to get. So every year we have the 3 years we try to grow a little bit as best we can. So, but right this year would be 55 would be where we would consider to be full.
Thank you. We have Trustee Gimber.
And that's, sorry, 55 FTE.
Okay, sorry. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, sorry. No, I appreciate that. Just to follow up with that, it wasn't mentioned in the previous presentations, had mentioned recruitment trips. Was there any recruitment trips that took place this year?
We did. We're part of APSI, which is the Alberta, Public Schools International. It's new. We're a part of that group that we've created. We're part of the founders. So we did one trip that did Germany and Paris, and so we went as a group. We find those very beneficial for our recruiting purposes, as we share our ideas and then we look at different opportunities. If they need to place a student, we use each other to do so, which we've had that piece. So that was the one recruiting trip. And the second one was the Japan one that I mentioned, to go and work with the Alberta Accredited School in Japan to be able to look at that relationship going forward. So those were our focus this year, so to be a part of APSI and continue that, and that's something we look to do in the future. And then again, looking at that Japanese opportunity was something we want to follow up on for this year, for sure.
Thank you. We have one more question. Trustee Gimber? Oh, she had her hand up.
I can keep my question for our financial update if Trustee Yegas wants to go instead.
Sure, thank you. Okay, Trustee Yegas?
Yeah, my question has to do with the ski academy at Livingston. How many students, like, are you restricting the amount of students that go into the ski academy? And are these students there full-time? Like, or do they just come for the ski season and then leave?
No, there's the answer is yes to almost all of that. So we're open. There's no cap for the ski academy per se in that particular school. It's one of those. What is the best interest of the child? Like, it ranges from 10 students we've had at the ski academy in 1 year to 5, and I think we usually were like this year run around 5 students. But sometimes those students are only here for a semester. Some are for the year. Most often, they're here for the full year. Yeah. If you know any skiers out there, let us know. We'd love to reach out to them out in international land. That's not Livingstone. So,
Thank you very much, Chad.
okay.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our action item F1 bylaw 2024-2. I'd like to request myself as chair to be able to participate in the conversation. If anybody else would like to take over the role of the chair, or Mr. Perry said he will chair it. All right, we're going to turn it over to you, Mr. Perry. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, item F1 bylaw 2024-2. The Board of Trustees approved the first reading of the bylaw 2024-2 at the November 26, 2024 board meeting. The Board of Trustees will discuss the bylaw in the second, third, and final readings. The deadline for approval is December 31st, 2024, as required in Bill 20, Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendment Act 2024. So I think one of the things that's important is to actually read through the bylaw. So I will do that, and then if there's a desire by anyone to put forward a motion, then they have the ability to do that. The Livingstone Range School Division bylaw 2024-2, a bylaw to require criminal record checks for trustee nominations. I'm going to put my glasses on just a second. So the preamble is that Section 21.1 of the Local Authorities Election Act allows an elected authority to, by bylaw passed prior to December 31st of the year before a year in which a general election is to be held, require a person seeking to be nominated as a candidate to provide a criminal record check. Section 28 of the Local Authorities Election Act provides that a returning officer shall not accept for filing a nomination that is not accompanied with a criminal record check required by law. B, at any time after the commencement of the nomination period until the term of office to which the filed nomination papers relate has expired, a person may request to examine the filed nomination papers during regular business hours and in the presence of the returning officer, deputy, or secretary. And so just going away from that, there was clarification that these are not posted on the website. They are available for public examination under the returning officer. C, a filed nomination paper must be made available in a partial or redacted form as necessary, but the results of the criminal record check must not be withheld or redacted except to ensure that the mailing address of the candidate and the candidate's official agent is not disclosed. The Board of Trustees of the Livingstone Range School Division deems it advisable to require a person seeking to be nominated to provide a criminal record check with their nomination. The Board of Trustees of the Livingstone Range School Division enacts this bylaw may be cited as the criminal record check bylaw. Definitions, unless otherwise specified, words used in this bylaw will have the same meaning as defined in the Local Authorities Election Act. In this bylaw, criminal record check means a check conducted by a police service in Alberta, which must include results of both local and national records, including charges and convictions. And the criminal record check. Every nomination of a candidate for the office of trustee must be accompanied with a criminal record check issued no earlier than 30 calendar days prior to the date of the nomination is submitted. The effective date is the bylaw comes into force on the day it is passed, and as we've mentioned, the first read was on November 26th, 24. Okay, so that's the potential bylaw, the one that has received the first reading. Is there a motion to approve a second reading at this time? Trustee Kimber.
Point of information. So if there was an amendment to be made to this, does that mean you have to go through readings 1 through 3 all over again, or how does that work?
No, I don't believe so. It can be amended and completed with the following readings. That's why you have 3 readings, to ensure that it's the accurate document that you want.
Thank you.
Yep. Trustee Toon.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Trustees approve the second reading of bylaw number 2024-2.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Toon. Any comments or discussion? Questions? Trustee Hodges.
Thank you. I've had a lot of time to reflect back on this. And I guess one of the biggest questions I've always had is, what was the problem trying to be solved in creating this that the government put out? If the government wanted it, why did they not implement it? It feels like a conflict of interest, as we are deciding on something that potentially could put barriers for potential people running against us if we were so choosing to run. It doesn't show the criminal offenses when you have this. They're not posted, so nobody would even know you had one if it was. And we directly do not work with kids that this is, I'm assuming, potentially for. Again, it just comes back to the question of what was the problem they were trying to solve on this. So for those reasons, I'm not comfortable with it as it stands. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hodges. Trustee Toon, I didn't let you speak to it if you wanted to. Sorry, I apologize.
Sure. No, I appreciate the opportunity to have second reading today. I think that this is just another tool in the toolbox. I think that I don't want to get into trying to analyze the government's motives on bringing something forward. I think that that's a dangerous path to go down. We could do that on anything that comes down from the government, and I think that leads to a lot of opportunities to politicize our decisions, and I don't think that that's something any of us want to do. I don't think this is perfect by any means, but I think that if the public had the opportunity to do this through us having this extra check and balance in the system, I think that this is a positive thing, that in ensuring that there's an equal playing field on those that are submitting their paperwork. I don't think this does anything untoward, bringing forward an advantage to us. There is just as much opportunity for any of us to have currently have a criminal record check and none of us know about it, as there is somebody in the public to bring that forward. So I support this, and I'd ask others to do the same.
Okay, Trustee Poitras. Thank you, Trustee Toon.
Okay, yeah, so thank you both for your comments, and thank you, Mr. Perry, for reading through that. I think that's why Lori stepped down as chair, just so she didn't have to read it. Just kidding. I agree with a lot of what Trustee Hodges has said. I've thought a lot about it and looked into it. We've been able to hear from our lawyers and have recommendations come forward from them. There is no other position that exists in Canada that you have to have a criminal record check for before running for that. So again, these can't be publicly posted. It could be something we require after you're elected. However, I know that it's difficult to get these done. There's a lot of strain on our RCMP, and they are no longer doing, criminal records for just anyone. Even to have people in our schools who are volunteering, it needs to be that they are individually with students to get that criminal record. So I really have a hard time thinking about putting this into practice when I think of what will it benefit? How will this benefit us? We get a copy saying that there has been a charge or not, or it's not publicly posted, it's not public knowledge unless someone wants to come down and actually physically view it. So I don't see the benefit of it. I also do disagree respectfully with what Trustee Toon said about questioning what comes down from the government. We are here, we are elected officials, we are political officers, and it is our job to take what the government gives us and question it and ask, why are we only being given this amount of dollars? Or why are things changing in a way that are funded in this possible way and we can't access dollars in that way? Why are you asking us to implement something rather than implementing it yourselves? Why are we passing it on? If you want me to do something that's best for children, best for teachers, best for communities, let me know what the motive is behind it. If you're not going to specifically say, we're asking school divisions to do this for this purpose, then I am not willing to just say, you want me to do this? I'll go ahead and do it. I need to ask the questions because we've been elected and put here to ask those questions and make sure we're the step between the division and the government. It's our job to govern and take those things that the government is saying and either put them into place or not put them into place, question them, see how they fit into our rural division, and what's best for Livingston Range students every day. So I respectfully disagree with, not questioning the motive behind the government in telling us, hey, you should look at doing this. So for the reasons that we've discussed, not really seeing the benefit behind it or the reason for doing it, I don't think that, I know that I currently, the way it stands, I am not in favor of putting this into place based on what we've heard from the lawyers and what we've taken time to look at. I don't see the benefit to this, and I see it as being a strain on our CMP officers having to get these for us when really there's no benefit to having them. So for that reason, I would be voting against this.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. I have Trustee Yegas, and then Trustee Long.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Poitras. I totally agree with everything that you said in terms of questioning the government. I do agree with that. I think the other thing is that when I look at something like this, for why they put it in, it will be a burden in a rural area because we do have, it is harder to get people to run if the more things you add to it in terms of when they're going to run, the less people that were, people are busy and it's just going to reduce the number of people who want to. I know in the past, I was just thinking of how many times I got in by, and how many people got in by acclamation. I think what we got to do is try to make it not much of a barrier. I would sooner have 5 or 6 people running in an area so people have a choice, and not be apathetic in terms of nobody putting their name through. Other than that, as was said, there's no other elected position that has these record checks put in. So yeah, I am totally against having a criminal record check done by a candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Yegas, Trustee Long, and then Trustee Gimber.
I'm going to give the same sentiments, perhaps in some different words. I, like Trustee Poitras, do not see what problem this solves. And in fact, I don't think it solves any issue. If we're looking at judging the character of a person, a way to judge the character of a person by having them either have a criminal check and have it come up positive, or have a criminal check and have it come up negative. Basically, what we're saying is that if you made a mistake, and I'll use in your youth because that's often what happens, and you got caught, then now we're going to possibly in some way that's going to negatively impact you in terms of your character. However, if I made a mistake in my youth and didn't get caught, guess what? If we bring this in, there's no consequences. No one knows about it. There's nothing negative. There's no negative impact. So basically, it's just saying, if you got caught, it's a character flaw. If you didn't, it's not. So again, I don't see how this solves any issue at all. We all make mistakes.
Thank you, Trustee Long. Trustee Gimber.
Thank you. Okay, I think that the first thing, if somebody does have a criminal record and we cannot display it online, but somebody could request to look at the documents that were submitted in the nomination package, even if they do have a criminal record, they are not precluded from running. But it is additional information that the public can have to make an educated vote on who they want to sit on this board. I'm a little reluctant on the 30 days. That was my question with regards to making an amendment. I would like to follow along with what another division did and amend that to 60 days out would be what my suggestion would be, but it doesn't look like we got enough support on the board anyway for this thing to go forward. I would be in favor of it just because I think it's additional tools for the public to make an educated vote on who they want to sit on this board.
Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Trustee Poitras.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear as well to the public or anyone who's here, or even, I'm pretty sure we all understand it on the board. I don't know if we've fully discussed it, but whether or not someone has a criminal record, we can't put anything into our bylaws saying that you are required to give a criminal record, and if the criminal record shows this, or this, or that, that you are disqualified from being a trustee. So that was a big piece for me, is there's really nothing we can do with the criminal record as far as saying, if you have one, you can't. I do agree with Trustee Gimber. Right off the bat, when we had our first reading and heard about this, I was totally like, yes, this is a no-brainer. Of course, everyone should just have a criminal record check. But then the more you learn about it, the more you see it's, in my opinion, it might hinder people from, putting their name forward. If I had a life situation where I'm like, I can't run for trustee again, and things change 2 weeks before the cutoff date, and I'm like, oh, I can run again. I thought we were moving to somewhere far away, and now we're not moving, and we're staying, and I want to run again. I want to do this job again, and I can't get my criminal record check done in that 2-week period, then I'm disqualified from running. When really that criminal record check, it unless someone comes down here, and maybe they will, maybe someone will come down here and check and see she did get one, it's clean or it's filthy or whatever it is, but it really has no bearing. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that's not something that we can amend to. We don't have any power regardless of what the criminal record says as a school division, right? Because as a board, we'll all be either running or not running, but you can't put that in as a bylaw, the parameters around if it says such and such, we will not accept your recommendation. So, and it's also That's also why they wouldn't be publicly posted online. That's also not something that you can do in the legal world. So I just want to make sure that that was an understanding that we can't do those things.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Poitras. Trustee Charchin.
Thank you. When I came today, I didn't know how I was going to vote on this. The question, like Trustee Hodges, to me was, what problem are we trying to solve? And Trustee Gimber almost convinced me of a problem in considering that the public be aware of potential criminal record if they were to look at it, to view it. Then I thought about the example I gave at the last meeting about my husband stepping on the third tee of a golf course at 18 years old and potentially being charged with trespassing. We wouldn't know the story behind that, and I think we could eliminate some really great candidates by people knowing a little bit, but not all of it. So, long story to say that I still don't see a problem that we can solve by having criminal record checks. So for that reason, I wouldn't vote in favor of them at this time.
Not seeing any other comments, Trustee Long.
Yeah, for some reason, I feel like I need to say this again. There is no way that a criminal record check is any proof of the character of a person.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Long. Trustee Toon, would you like to close?
Yeah, no, appreciate the discussion. For me, I've watched a lot of proceedings of other boards. There's other boards that have already approved this that are going on, other school boards. To say that this isn't a requirement for anyone else is not entirely true. There's other boards that are going to do this. There's other boards that require it after getting elected. And I think it's unfortunate if this board chooses not to do this. I think it's another opportunity for transparency in our public. We're not passing judgment on anyone's character. This doesn't preclude anyone from running. It doesn't dismiss any candidate, whether they did something large or small. It allows local constituents, the local media, to come and access this in a correlated manner. It is our responsibility. That's why the government doesn't mandate this, to set the local bylaws in accordance with what we want for our local elections. They're providing us an opportunity. We don't have to do it. It's not mandated. But I think we should use any tool that is available to us to help elevate the role of trustees. We shouldn't lower the bar by saying this could be burdensome because of time. I appreciate the thoughts that Trustee Gimber thought of making an amendment, but I don't think that this is something that we should take away from our public in this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Toon. So I will call the question. The motion that is on the table at this point is that the Board of Trustees approve the second reading of bylaw number 2024-2. All those, Trustee
I'd
Toon?
ask for a recorded vote.
Okay,
Chair.
we will have a recorded vote. Okay, I'll just say that again, that the Board of Trustees approve the second reading of the bylaw number 2024. All in favor? Those opposed? That motion is defeated. Therefore, we will not move on to a third and final reading. Trustee Poitras, do you have a comment? Okay. Okay, Trustee Hodges, am I moving to the next bylaw as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so item F.2, I'm going to change the word to deposit from fee. So deposit for school board trustee nomination package submissions. And I see that Trustee Charchin and Trustee Long have their name beside that. Would one of you like to speak to this? Yep, sure, Trustee Charchin.
Thank you. Oh, am I close enough? There we go. Yes, we would like to have the opportunity to speak to the possible implementation of a fee for school board trustee nominations, and I ask you to consider the 4 points, but not exclusive to these. One of the points of consideration is to discourage non-serious candidates. So a deposit ensures that only individuals who are serious about running and committed to the role of trustee will apply. It acts as a filter to avoid frivolous or unserious nominations. Second, to reduce administrative burden. By limiting the number of candidates, school boards can reduce the administrative workload of processing nomination packages and managing elections. Number 3, incentivizes accountability. Candidates who pay a deposit are likely to put more effort into their campaigns as they have a financial stake in the process. And number 4, encourage commitment to community service. A deposit demonstrates that candidates are willing to invest in their desire to serve the community, showing dedication to the role and not just remuneration.
Okay, thank you. I'm really out of practice. I don't know why I can't follow as according, but I'll just read through in addition to what Trustee Charchin has provided. Trustee Charchin and Long will speak to the possible implementation of a fee or a deposit for the school board nominations, beginning with the Livingston Range School Division 2025 school board elections. The Local Authorities Act, Section 29(1) reads, an elected authority may, by bylaw passed prior to December 31st of the year before a year in which the general election is to be held, require that every nomination be accompanied with a deposit in the amount fixed in the bylaw. Clause 2 of that, an amount fixed in a bylaw under subsection 1 may not exceed $1,000 in the case of a local jurisdiction with a population more than 10,000, which does not apply to us, or $100 in any other case. So I believe the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of bylaw number 2024-3. Does somebody want to make that motion? Okay, Trustee Charchin. Trustee Charchin has spoken to it. I will read through the bylaw as it's been prepared to the best of my ability. So following the same format as other bylaws, which we've used in the past and which we've seen lawyers do. It may be a little bit repetitive, but I'll read through it nonetheless. So Livingston Range School Division Bylaw 2024-3, a bylaw to require a deposit for trustee nominations. The preamble is Section 29(1) of the Local Authorities Act allows an elected authority to, by bylaw passed prior to December 31st of the year before a year in which a general election is to be held, require that every nomination be accompanied with a deposit. Section 29 of the Local Authority Election Act provides that an amount fixed under a bylaw under 1 may not exceed A, $1,000 in the case of a local jurisdiction with a population of more than 10,000, or B, $100 in any other case. The Board of Trustees of Livingston Range School Division deems it advisable to require a person seeking to be nominated to provide a deposit with their nomination. The Board of Trustees of the Livingston Range School Division enacts this bylaw may be cited as the trustee nomination deposit bylaw, and definitions unless otherwise specified words used in this bylaw will have the same meaning as defined in the Local Authorities Election Act. In this bylaw, deposit means a payment in cash, by certified check, by money order, or by e-transfer. Deposit, every nomination of a candidate for the office of trustee must be accompanied with a $100 deposit at the time the nomination is submitted. The effective date would be, this bylaw comes into force on the day it is passed. And this is the motion to approve the first reading on December 17, 2024. So are there other comments, questions, or discussion items? Trustee Hodges.
I don't always get the opportunity to go first, so I'll just take it. I also feel very uncomfortable with this one too. I feel like it's another barrier put in for the public to run for being a trustee. We've never implemented something like this, although it's been available to implement at any time. It's been around for a long time. We are a small rural school division, and I think we already have struggles getting people to run in some of our communities. And although $100 may not seem like a lot of money, to somebody potentially, it could be a lot of money and deter them from running to be a trustee. I also do feel like this one is not necessarily a conflict, but again, it's putting barriers for people to run against us. And so I guess I don't support that, and that's where I'll leave it for right now.
Thank you, Trustee Hodges. Trustee Toon.
Thank you. I'm opposed to this. I think that it's hypocritical for us to approve something like this after the previous bylaw. We just had rationale given for this one that could have easily been used to justify doing the criminal record check. The seriousness of having somebody, of a candidate, willingness to do a criminal record check, do a deposit, I think those there, you can draw some parallels to that. I do agree with Trustee Hodges that this is a barrier. I've ran in an election where there was a deposit made, and it made zero difference to me wanting to run or not. I think it's dangerous when we talk about we wanting to limit the burden of administration by the amount of candidates, when we have trustees during this meeting saying we're not getting candidates, we're getting people that are elected through acclamation, that we need more candidates stepping forward. So why would we want to require $100? I don't think that that's going to change, and I agree with Trustee Hodges. There are people that could make the difference. The seriousness of a candidate is putting the willingness to put your name forward to serve your community. It's a serious endeavor that everyone here took a lot of thought and discussion with family and support from their neighbors and community members. You ask for people to sign your nomination papers to come forward. To me, that's serious, and I don't think that this is justified.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Are there any other? Trustee Yegas.
I agree with both Trustee Hodges and Trustee Toon. I think once again, we have to encourage people to run. And I don't think that this is going to be an encouragement. Not that, well, I shouldn't say not that $100 is a lot of money, because for some people it probably is. And I think if you're serious about running and helping the students of Livingstone Range School Division, I think that you will put your name forward and help it. I don't think the $100 or this payment will be a factor in any one way or another. So I am also against this.
Thank you, Trustee Yegas. Trustee Poitras.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we all are part of the discussion, and I do know some fantastic candidates who, they could probably raise the money and reach out, but $100 can be, a significant amount of money in the fall when you're paying for all your schools and back to school, all of that. So I agree that, to see the seriousness of a candidate and stuff, if we felt like we had an excessive number of people running and it's something we wanted to look at, like, wow, our last election was kind of crazy. We had 50 different candidates throughout and a lot of crazy, conversations and debates and stuff going on, or public forums. But right now, I really think we need to encourage people to look at what trustees do, what the role of the trustee is, and, how impactful it can be, and share that so that people are interested and want to run and put their name forward. And I do see this as being a bit of a barrier for maybe, some of those who don't have $100 easily to just, I wouldn't want you to not put your name in if you were seriously interested because of something like that. So for me, I don't think it's the right time or needed right now, but in the future, if it felt needed, then I would maybe vote in favor of it, but at this time it doesn't feel that way.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Trustee Charchin.
Thank you. Just a couple of things I'd like to reply to. Trustee Toon, I'm not sure that I agree with it being similar to a criminal record check. I think with a criminal record check, we're we're sharing information, limited information about people, or could be shared if people choose to look at it, and I don't really see this as similar. In the by-election in Ward 1, we had 5 candidates that ran in the by-election in one ward. So I'm really hopeful that that's indicative of what we will get in the future. That all being said, I'm not sure that there's a problem we're trying to solve here either. And so for those reasons, I would not vote in favor of it either.
Thank you, Trustee Churchin. Trustee Gimber.
Thank you. Mr. Perry, no offense, you're not a lawyer, and you created this last minute, and a lawyer has not had a chance to look this over. So right there, I'm a little bit reluctant to approve this last minute. It is something that's been possible for us to do for, I understand, decades. This has been something we've been able to do, and we haven't. So I don't understand the rush to put this through right now. I think the point Trustee Toon, I think, was making with regards to it being similar to the record check is just in the seriousness of a candidate. If they're willing to do one, they should be willing to do the other. I think that's where he was going with that. I'm not in favor of this.
Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Okay, well, go ahead, Trustee Long.
Yeah, this was something that was discussed, brought up at our planning meeting. So both Trustee Charch and myself thought that perhaps, not perhaps, that it was something we should put on the agenda, discuss in a public forum. And we've done that, and it's been very good discussion, interesting and to hear from everybody and insightful. And I'll call the question.
Okay. All right, we have call the question. Anybody opposed to calling the question? Okay, I will call the question. The motion on the table is that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of bylaw number 2024-3. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is defeated, and we will not move on to another reading. So I will turn the chair back to Trustee Hodges.
Thank you. At this time, we are just going to take a 10-minute bio break. All right, everybody's back, so let's stay on track today. So I'm going to call us back to order at 10:53, and we're moving on to F3, which is our quarterly financial report. The audit committee met with the LRSD finance team and reviewed the quarterly report ending November 30th, 2024. The audit committee will provide a summary of their review process and key findings at the board meeting. Documents will be shared with the board after the audit committee scheduled for the meeting on December 12, 2024. Recommendation that the audit committee recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the quarterly financial report as presented. I'll make that motion. All right, we'll just bring up the slides. All right, so as chair of the audit committee, this is the report as of the end of November 30th, 2024, which is 25% of the fiscal year and 30% of the school year. We met with management on December 11th, and we reviewed in detail the revenue expenditures by object, by program, and schedule of net assets. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our responsibility is to review in greater detail the financial results up to November 30th, 2024. Report to the board the results of our review, including any areas we feel the board should be made aware of. Our review and report, we spent 2 hours meeting with management to review in detail the financial results. Management provided a thorough review and answered all committee members' questions and inquiries to the satisfaction of the committee. The committee is pleased to report that we are confident that the financial reports for the first quarter are accurate based on our review. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to Jordan Gunderson, who's going to walk us through the financial positions. No. Thank you, Jordan.
Good morning and thank you. So as at November 30th, after our first quarter of operations, we've seen a decrease in our financial position of $133,222 from where we were at the end of August. And so today we're going to be going through what makes up that decrease, was that expected, and where are we relative to where we would expect to be. So first, when we look at our statement of operations, this summary tells us where we are. So in quarter one, we had revenues of $14.23 million and expenditures of $14.36 million. And this is what makes up that deficit from the previous slide of $133,222. Given that we are 25% of the way through our fiscal year, where the amount of revenue we would have expected to have, should we be exactly 25% of the way through our budget, is that $14.06 million, and we would have expected our spending to be $14.14. So as we can see, our deficit's about $54,000 more than where we would be if we were exactly 25% of the way through our budget year. On the far right, you can see that our budgeted deficit for this entire year is $313,000. And I just have a note there that I just wanted to bring up. So when we prepared the budget, we included a transportation surplus of $211,822. We know with the new requirements from the government of Alberta, we're not allowed to report transportation surpluses. And so our budgeted deficit when transportation is removed is $524,936. And you'll see that number referenced later in the slides. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear why here our budget shows a $313,000 deficit, and later in the slides it's going to show, we're going to be comparing to that $524,000 number. All right, so if we can go to the next slide, we're going to look at a few of the reasons why our revenue is over that 25% number. Okay, so looking at three different areas of revenue, the first one that we always like to take a look at is the Government of Alberta education funding, because it is our largest source of funding. So as of the end of November, we had recognized revenue that is 24.5% of the budget. So we're under that target by about $245,000. And the main reasons for that, and some of these will be familiar, they're things we see every year in the first quarter, such as our summer school funding. We receive that throughout the year, but we don't want to recognize it as revenue until we have delivered our summer programming. So we hold off on recognizing that revenue and defer it until later in the year. So that's $266,000 that we've received for summer school funding so far, but have not recognized. Nutrition funding, we haven't recognized any of our nutrition funding as revenue yet because we have two other sources of nutrition funding we've received. A donation from Northback as well as some Breakfast Club of Canada donations. And we're utilizing those funds first before we use our Alberta Education Nutrition dollars. And so we have some money we've received but not spent or used yet. Similarly, our IMR funding, we've only used about 12.3% of our IMR funding so far, as we use a lot more of it later in the year as we take care of those maintenance projects. A few areas where we have more revenue than we had budgeted from Alberta Education. We've received an extra $87,000 so far, and this is for funding adjustments that were made over the summer in July. So as you guys know, when we prepared our budget, we had a certain funding profile that we used to prepare that and submit our budget. And then later in the summer, the government announced additional funding to schools. So we've received more than what we had budgeted for that. And then an additional $60,000 from dual credit funding that we have received and spent. On the federal government side of things, we have recognized $240,000 more than what we would have expected at this point in the year. The big reasons there are the Jordan's Principle grant funding we've received. We budgeted for some of it for the grants that we knew of at the time of budget, but we have since been approved for more. So we've gotten more than what we expected. And then the other area of federal government funding that we always talk about is for those students that are attending our schools but live on reserve. We are slightly ahead of what we'd budgeted for those students, which is a turnaround from last year where we were under from what we had targeted. So we're really close to being right on track and even slightly ahead in our funding from those students. Other areas where we're ahead of that 25% of target, so some significant ones, and I mentioned them earlier, our Northback donation for nutrition programming as well as Breakfast Club of Canada. We've recognized an extra $99,000 more than what we would have expected at this point in the year. And our investment income continues to be a strong point where we are $30,000 ahead of our target right now. We're already at about 50% of what we'd budgeted for the whole year, and we're only a quarter of the way through the year. So next, we're going to look at some of our expenditures, which were also higher than our 25% target, and some of the reasons those might be, and some areas that might even be below that 25% target. So we always like to look at our salaries and benefits on their own because it is our largest operating expense. So right now, they make up 10.57 million of our expenditures, and they're at 26.4% of what we had budgeted for those. So some of the reasons why those are high, one of the big ones, and this is just a timing thing this time of year, we currently have 6 teachers on maternity leave. And when they're on maternity leave for those first 13 weeks, we have a top-up cost. So we're paying their replacement, and we're paying a top-up to make sure they have their full pay on top of their EI benefits. This is something we had budgeted for, but it's just all happening upfront at the very start of the year, so it causes a lot of upfront costs. We also are seeing that for our teaching staff, our sub costs are a lot higher than we've seen in the past couple years and what we had budgeted. So those are currently at 37.5% of the budget, and we're 30% of the way through the school year. So those are a little bit high. Some other reasons that we have staffing costs high. The really big one when it comes to the support staff area is all the extra staff that we've been able to hire with Jordan's Principle. So we currently have 27 support staff being paid through Jordan's Principle funding. At the time of preparing the budget, we had only known about 10 of those positions and budgeted for them. So that's like an extra 17 on top of what we had budgeted. And it's important to note that they are all fully funded. So although it causes our expenses to be higher, we have offsetting revenue coming in to cover those costs. And then just a last note that's always important to remember. Sorry, Brad, I'll just finish this one comment. Lots of our support staff are paid over 10 months. So given that we're 3 months into the year, it's often we see that they are closer to 30% of our budget being spent on those areas. Yes, Trustee Toon?
Thank you. Just a question about Jordan's principals funding. Has that all been approved? I've heard of some divisions not receiving approval yet for some of their support staff.
That's correct. So we still have 2 of our schools that the applications are still waiting for approval. We're taking the steps to follow up and trying to accelerate that as soon as we can. One thing to note for both of those schools, we did have carryover funding from last year that could be used to help cover some of those positions this year. So to this point, we've had funds to help cover support staff in those schools, and we're still optimistic they will be approved, but we do not know the timing of that at this time.
So what's the number of staff outstanding then between those 2 schools? Do you know what that is?
I think it would be 1 certificated position at one of our schools and about 4 or 5 support staff positions. I'm not super involved in the applications themselves, but from what I've been told, it would be about those numbers.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, then outside of staffing, we have our other operating expenditures. So this would be things like PD, supplies, repairs and maintenance, amortization, all those fun things. So those areas outside of staffing, we're actually below that 25% target. We've only spent 22.93% of our budget. And so some of the reasons why we're under, again, this is something we see every year. We have a pretty significant budget for our FACES and all of our summer programming, really, and we don't incur any of that until the last 2 months of our fiscal year. And so at the start of the year, there's no spending in those areas, which makes our budget look low. The utility expenses are lower at the start of the year, coming off the summer, so we're only at 16% of our budget, even though we're 25% of the way through the fiscal year. And this is consistent with what we've seen year over year. And then again, repairs and maintenance also only at about 16% of our budget spending. Again, this is comparable to what we see each year, and it's usually due to those projects being delayed until the summer, and especially the facility-based projects when there's not students in the school and there's availability. All right, so we just want to take a look at how each of our different areas of program operations are performing. Our funding and how we're required to budget and report to the government of Alberta is in these 4 different areas. So instruction, maintenance, transportation, and then board and system admin. And so each of those areas in this report, it's similar to our statement of operations report we saw earlier, but it's just broken out by program or by department. And I also put where we were at this point last year in that bottom row, just as a comparison. So in instruction, our deficit right now is $245,000. Maintenance, we have a slight surplus of $37,000. Transportation has a surplus of $73,500. And board and system admin has a surplus of just under $1,000. So as we can see when we compare this to where we were last year in each of these areas, it's a very similar trend. So instruction, we get our funding over 12 months, but a lot of our costs happen over 12 months. We typically have a larger deficit early in the year. This year, it's higher than last year due to the timing of those maternity leaves that we discussed earlier, some upfront costs that'll taper off throughout the year. Maintenance, we have a slight surplus. This is consistent at this time of year due to those savings in utilities, less maintenance projects happening. As we know from last year's audited financial statements and from our budget, we do expect to finish the year in a deficit in maintenance. Transportation is seeing a surplus. We ended in a surplus last year and we budgeted for a slight surplus this year, so it is what we expect. And should we end the year in a surplus, we'll have to do what we did at the end of last year and defer that money into future years. All right, and so just how does this look for our operating reserves? Again, just a little summary here. As at the end of last year, we had a $1.71 million operating reserve. And so at the end of our first quarter, that operating reserve would be at 1.57 million, which represents 2.79% of what our budgeted expenses are. All right, and then just a few other areas to note on the next slide, Nikki. So with the rest of the year, some more areas of potential revenue that we could see and things that we expect to stay high. So we have a large group of second semester international students coming, specifically from Brazil, but also some other students potentially from other areas. For your information, the international program right now is sort of right on budget. So any extra students we bring in is going to be additional revenue and surplus to that program. We just had a large GIC mature on December 13th. So that's one of the reasons why our interest has been high, and we were able to renew it, a large portion of it, at over 3.5% for another year. So 3.5% is more than what we had used for our budgeted rate. So that area will continue to be high and above budget. In the world of our capital activity, we purchased one new yellow bus at the end of November. So we have had one significant capital purchase so far this year. And then forecasting into the future. So we, based on all the numbers we have right now and the things we know about, our forecasted deficit at the end of the year is 381,000. And this can be compared to our budgeted deficit of 524,936. And again, that 524 is our budget when we take out that transportation surplus. So things to consider: forecast this time of year, very volatile. We still have 3 quarters of the year to go, but it is a good sign of where we're at in our budget. There are some very significant unknowns that are still coming up that will affect our forecast. Majority of them being in the negotiations with our various employee groups. And then also, we always get a weighted moving average adjustment during the year that will affect our numbers for the year when that comes through. And that is the end of the presentation. Are there any questions?
Trustee Poitras?
Yeah, I was just wondering about the bus. Did we get a brand new bus, and did we wait a long time for it, or have they become more available?
It is a brand new bus. Mr. Perry, can you come? I'm not really involved in when the purchase happens. I just make sure it gets paid for. And so he can give us some idea of the timing.
The time frame to get a new bus is longer than it has been in the past. Just not as many available and multiple requests from divisions. We typically order the bus 6 months in advance, if not more, earlier than that. And so Rick will likely be putting in another request here shortly.
Trustee Gember?
I have a couple questions. I'll start with one. So the first is with regards to transportation and how we implemented the 1 kilometer or 1 point, whatever it was, yeah. My question is, with us implementing that, are we being compensated to the point where we, from the government, do we have a surplus from that, or is it costing us money to do it?
Do you want to take that one, Jeff?
So it would be fairly close to breaking even. I could get you the details. I don't have the details right now, but we did get additional revenue for transporting the additional students. The revenue is not at the same level that we get for other students that are outside of the community itself. It plays a role in the density formula with regards to and density and distance formula with regards to the transportation area. We've added, I think Rick spoke to this, we added 3 additional buses and drivers throughout the division to accommodate that. And more in our larger communities, Claresholm and Crow's Nest Pass and Fort McLeod, I believe. Don't hold me to that one, but 3 new buses. And so the revenue would have come very close to offsetting one another. We didn't get additional revenue above and beyond. If anything, it would be a little less. So.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so we've heard a lot of conversation in the community about peaks and it being self-sustaining. My question is with regards to the international program after the presentation today. Is it something that is self-sustaining within itself? Like, is there a cost analysis that's done of each of these programs that take place that's out there?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, each of our programs, they're looked at individually to make sure that they cover their own costs. So just a little bit of how that international program works, the fee structure. Each of those students who comes, they pay a fee to attend, which consists of different parts. There's a portion that's meant to cover all of that student's specific costs. So they pay to cover their homestay costs. If they're attending the ski academy, they have an extra fee to cover all the costs associated with attending the ski academy. And then all of them pay a tuition amount. And that tuition amount comes back. It goes to covering our homestay coordinators. And once they're covered, there's any leftover money goes right back into instruction. So international does, when all of those fees are considered, bring in more than all of the costs that are directly related to it. And it produces a surplus that stays within instruction and benefits the schools. Currently, in our last budget, we used it to go towards allocating our teachers at the schools. So it increased the amount of money we had for our teacher allocation at the schools.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Trustee Gimbert.
Yeah, I have one more.
Sure.
So again, kind of going back to transportation, we have some volunteers, especially when it comes to sports, coaches that are volunteering to drive the buses. And my question is, do we keep track of the donation amount, I guess for lack of a better term, and how the volunteers that are doing this is being offset in the sport or the field trip or whatever it is that they're volunteering their time for?
That's a good question. So when we're setting up fees for sports or any sort of fee, they're meant to be cost recovery. So if the volunteer is known of beforehand, then the schools, when they're preparing that fee, should factor that into what they're charging students, understanding that the cost will be lower, so we can charge less to the students. That's not always going to be known beforehand, right? Typically, when they set up their fees, they're going to anticipate their trips and might not know who the driver will be at any given time. And so the fee may be based on having paid a driver. So in the case that volunteers do arise later in the year, there may be savings within a certain sport or on a certain trip or something of that nature. In that case, we have a review that needs to be done at the end of any sporting season, at the end of any trip where we charged a fee. This is a school-based review, and the schools do it themselves. We're there to determine what did we collect in fees and what did the actual costs end up being. And after that is finished, if there is money left over, the standard is to refund it for certain student paid fees, or if it's within the same program, it can stay there and support that program. Now, in the case where a driver did volunteer, if they had a specific preference on what that savings was to be used for, it could be considered by the school. So if there was savings and they wanted it to benefit a specific program, it could be used that way. We're not currently tracking that specifically, at least at the division level. Some schools may be, and I'd be happy to work with them to track that if it is something that needs to be done.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Poitras?
I just have clarity on that. So if you had someone like yourself who volunteers to coach a team, you could say, I'm also willing to drive bus. I have my certification and I'm willing to drive bus for the entire season. So I'll be at all the games because I'm already planning on being there. And you could let the school know that, and then there would just be a bus provided for you. As I know it's always possible to provide a bus, but whenever it is possible to provide the bus, and that team then would have that specific savings, theoretically.
Theoretically, yes. Yeah,
okay.
the school should, if they knew that they're not going to incur any driver costs for a specific sport or team, then they should factor that into their fee analysis when they're determining the amount to charge.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. I would just like to take a moment to thank Jordan for taking the audit committee through the financial statements. He was actually quite sick that day, and he did it virtually, so we appreciate him coming on. Mr. Perry was also there. He did not take us through the financials, but he provided some support. I'd also like to thank our public members again. Marilyn Walsh, she was there at our last meeting. Unfortunately, Martha was not, but she attended the previous meeting. So we continue to thank them for giving that outside opinions and questions. Again, thank you very much. And so the audit committee recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the quarterly financial report as presented. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, moving on to F4, Board Advocacy. With the recent presentation from the Transportation Department, the board became more aware of concerns arising from the implementation of the distance changes contained in the new transportation regulations. Trustee Toon.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I didn't have my hand up quick so you can see it. I just have a motion arising I'd like to make. I sent it in to Nikki just now and yourself. And the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve receiving a report at the January meeting of the outstanding costs, if any, of the unapproved Jordan's Principal funded staff.
So you're making this motion for this board meeting right now? And then, or is it a
Yes.
notice? Okay.
No, arising. So
Arising? Okay,
yeah,
so
if
then we'll
approved,
make that, like, did you want to just discuss it at the end of action items? Were you wanting to discuss it now as you had your hand up for now?
whichever the
Okay.
chair so chooses.
Okay, we will make that then board meeting.
Board meeting.
We'll make that F7 then, please, Nikki. Thank you, Trustee Toon. Board meeting, Trustee Toon? Yeah. Just for timeline, right? Yeah. I just don't want to amend it later. Let's just get it clear right now. Okay, perfect. Are you okay there, Nikki? Okay. Back to board advocacy. Recommendation that the board directs the advocacy committee to write a letter to the Minister of Education and CCR, MLA, ASBA, and board chairs. I'm making that motion. Any questions or comments around that? I think my opening with the presentation we received from transportation, I think is important that we communicate with government around any concerns or implementation changes coming forward. So, Trustee Toon?
Thank you, Chair. I think there's huge concerns, especially with what has just been put out this morning in our email box. For those that aren't aware, they changed the kilometers from 1 kilometer for
Yeah.
elementary school students for next year to 1.6. So that has huge implications for our administration and our kids and our families. So I think that it's important that we sit with administration and share the concerns that they have and advocate on everyone's behalf so we can weather these storms of turbulence of changes with government.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Yes, I think this is a timely advocacy letter to be written. And so, Trustee Charchen, I saw your hand up.
I completely concur with Trustee Toon. One other added expense, and I don't obviously know the fine details, but we could also be looking at needing extra buses, which is a huge cost and a big delay. So I very much support this.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Yegas?
I was just wondering if there was a timeline that you wanted on this advocacy report?
As soon as possible. I don't know if we'll have time before Christmas, but definitely into the new year with holidays coming up, I would like that. So with meeting with administration, we need to find time. So as soon as possible, but I recognizing that Christmas holidays are next week. And so into the new year's just fine. Thank you.
Okay, and my second part of the question is that if there are concerns in that, maybe you could email trustee Long or myself about the concerns, because, I mean, we do have the one that trustee Toon had, but maybe there are other ones that are prominent as that. So if you could just, if any trustee has any, just email one of us.
Yeah, and I think that's why we'll sit down with the transportation department and speak with them, and they'll help fill our letter and give us any concerns or questions, and Mr. Perry too also, so. Any other questions or comments? All right, the recommendation is that the board directs advocacy committee to write a letter to the Minister of Education and CCR, MLA, ASBA, and board chairs. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to our 2025 election returning officer and substitute returning officer. In accordance with the Local Authorities Act, Section 13(1), an elected authority may, by resolution, appoint a returning officer for the purposes of conducting elections. Under this act, by June 30th of the year in which the election occurs, and Section 13(2.1), an elected authority may, by resolution, appoint a substitute returning officer by June 30th of the year in which the election occurs. Given that the nominations for trustee elections can be received as of January 1st, 2025, and up until nomination day, it is recommended that the board appoint the returning officer and substitute returning officer at their December board meeting. It is the recommendation that the Board of Trustees name Mr. Perry, Associate Superintendent, Business Services, as a returning officer for the 2025 School Board Trustee elections. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Poitras? We have a second recommendation on the floor too, which I will move to after we should do them both because it's under the same heading. The other recommendation that the Board of Trustees name Ms. Nikki Lynn, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent of Substitute Returning Officers for the 2025 School Year Board Trustees elections. Sorry, yeah. No, I just read it wrong. I'm sorry, Nikki. Can I get someone to make that motion, please? Yeah, Trustee Yegas. All right, we'll speak to the first motion that that Trustee Poitras has made. Did you want to speak to it?
We're just speaking to the first.
Yeah. Mr. Trustee, yeah.
Mr. Trustee.
I'm all messed up.
You know, I've just been so impressed with Jeff's work in this role in the 2 elections that I've been through with him that I just can't think of anyone better, and I know that he loves it. So that's why I really feel strongly about this recommendation today.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Any other questions or comments? All righty. That the Board of Trustees name Mr. Jeff Perry, Associate Superintendent of Business Services, the returning officer for the 2025 School Board Trustee elections. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to the second recommendation made by Trustee Yegas. Did you want to speak to that?
I think Mrs. Linton is very capable, and that's just one of the reasons that we should put her in there. So that's it, basically it, and everything that Trustee Poitras said too.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, the Board of Trustees name Ms. Nikki Litwin, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent of Substitute Returning Officers for the 2025 School Board Trustee elections. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to F6, our Christmas concerts. It is that the Board of Trustees approved to attend assigned school Christmas celebrations and receive per diem. Trustee Gimber has made that motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure. So every year we go through the list of Christmas celebrations and assign trustees to them. We haven't done that yet this year, and I think it was just overlooked that it wasn't on this agenda, so that's what this is.
Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Here is the school Christmas activities, and I know some of them have occurred already. And so is there any questions around any of the assignments? Yep, Trustee Yegas?
Is this just for the schools, our schools that we are assigned to? Or
Yes.
any school within our ward?
You will be paid per diem as per your assigned school. Trustee Toon and then Trustee Poitras.
Thank you. I'm attending AB Daily as well and Stavely as well, but not expecting per diem. And Stavely with Trustee Gimber as well. And Trustee Charchin is on AB Daily as well.
Trustee Long?
Nikki, will you scroll down so we can see? Oh, that's enough. Yeah, Horace Allen, you got it.
Trustee Toon?
Yeah, I think it's great to assign trustees, but that comes at a cost. I think just having us go through the list to make sure we are aware who's attending. I'd be against the per diem. We've had motions to ask all committees to look for efficiencies and things that we can do to help create efficiencies and have cost savings. I think that this could easily be taken under our monthly per diem, our monthly honorarium, and not have the extra cost to it. It'd still cover kilometers for anyone traveling that is driving to these events. I think they're great, but I don't think since besides having our names announced and being there, it's not similar to any other community event, and it's not listed in policy that we pay for this. I know traditionally we have for the most part, but I would be against paying for it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Long?
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Toon. It's a celebration. I don't see it as it's not necessary that we're there. We're not really in any specific role. I don't equate it to graduation and such like things like that. I think it actually is mostly for the enjoyment of the trustee.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Trustee Gimber, did you want to close? No? All right. The recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve to attend assigned school Christmas celebrations and receive per diem. All in favor? Defeated. All right, moving on to F7, that the Board of Trustees approve receiving a report at the January board meeting of the outstanding cost, if any, of unimproved Jordan's principals funded staff. Trustee Toon has made that motion. Did you want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Just as going through the report, wasn't aware of any that weren't approved. I thought we had our approval, but I know that this is a situation not just to us locally, it's across the country. Wild Rose School Division recently announced they're laying off 50 EA support staff because they have not received any notification for those. So I think that's a really big challenge. 5-0. That's a really big challenge, and we're fortunate that our numbers aren't that big, but I think it's something as governors we should be kept apprised of, the outstanding liability, and then that in the future I think we could also continue on with our advocacy work on saying how great a program it is and how challenging it could be for us with funding and reserves if we don't have the money to fund that if we're not approved, how big a challenge that could be doing that. And my sympathy goes out for those boards that are having to make those tough decisions because of the large number that they're unapproved for. So I would ask for support in this motion.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Any questions or comments? Trustee Poitras?
Yep, just because we have a few of our financial employees in the room right now, is this motion clear enough to know exactly what we're looking for? And is that timeline, which would be end of January, realistic?
Can you hear me now? There we go. So yes, I think it seems clear. I can comment that right now there's been no extra costs because, as I noted earlier, we had carry forward funds from previous year that we were able to use. But should those positions we have continue, there would be potential costs, and so that is what I could calculate as what those uncovered costs would be should those positions continue through the whole year. Would that be sufficient information, Trustee Toon?
Sorry, then would end of January, just with holidays and everything, would that be enough time for you to have that
Yep, that should be
information?
fine.
Okay, perfect, thanks. Then I just want to thank Trustee Toon. I think this is very important, and you know, if the timeline works, I think that's great for us to stay on top of it and be aware of what's happening with the Jordan Principal approval and positions.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Trustee Toon, did you want to close? All right, so the motion reads that the Board of Trustees approve receiving a report at the end of January board meeting of the outstanding cost, if any, of the unapproved Jordan's Principal funded staff. All in favor? Carried. All right, moving on to discussion items, Nanton update. Trustee Toon, the Nanton School Advisory Chair, will update the Board of Trustees on the Nanton schools.
So we haven't had another meeting, but this provides, since we've given our last update, this provides an opportunity, and I should have submitted the wording beforehand, that recommendation coming from the chair is to have this be part of our consent agenda moving forward and have it be pulled out because the timeline between our meetings is going to be longer. So if there is a report, it would appear in our consent agenda, and that anytime there's a big announcement, we would pull that out and have that be presented in the public portion. So if that, any questions regarding that, moving to the consent portion of the agenda with our other reports.
Perfect, thank you, Trustee Toon. Any questions around that? Okay, definitely we will do that, and then we can add it to the consent agenda. Thank you. All right, moving on to G2, the President Award. So just want to recognize.
Yeah, that was a request for a
Oh, sorry,
motion.
I thought you were just saying that
No.
that's what Nanton's going to do.
No,
Yes, we do need a motion for that, and Trustee Toon made that motion. So any questions around the motion? I'll just move it on. I was just going to do it. Any questions around that? No. Okay, so that the Board of Trustees add Nanton update to the consent agenda. All in favor? See, I was just going to do it. Kathy, were you in favor of that vote? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, now moving on to the President's Award. At the FGM in November, our own trustee Brad Toon received the Alberta School Boards Association President's Award. This award, selected by the ASBA's president, acknowledges those who have significantly shared education across Alberta. Brad is well known for his unmistakable dedication to this work and commitment to excellence. Congratulations, Brad. Should have got you to bring a little trophy. You could have showcased it. Did you want to say anything, Trustee Toon?
Just a quick thank you to all my fellow board members and the administration. It really is the support of all of you, whether it's raising your hands or helping meetings or the amount of stuff that I've been able to be involved in is only because of you guys and the support. It's amazing to see the support of LRSD when we go to these events, of how many things that we've been involved with at the zone and at the provincial level, and it's awesome to have that support. Thanks.
Thank you. I will say this is actually the very first time I've ever seen Brad shocked. The look on his face was like, wait, what? So again, congratulations. Alrighty, so moving on our agenda to now we have our key messages. So key messages from today's meeting. So just clarification, the presentations are only the top three that we had this morning from, I can't even remember who was all there, but those are the only presentations that I have. So anything else from today's meeting beyond that, if you'd like to see that, then please specify. Trustee Poitras.
Yeah, I would like one of our key messages to be the letter that's being written to who are we sending it to? Our MLAs and stuff. I don't know if we need to actually share the letter, depending on what it says, as a
The advocacy
press
letter
release.
for transportation?
Yeah, around the press release, or if I would just really like to share the message at our school councils in January, unless anyone still has one this month, that, you know, we are aware of the changes that are happening again now to transportation, and that we are advocating to the government through our advocacy committee that, you know, these type of changes have a big impact. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily believe we need to share the letter unless the advocacy committee feels it's appropriate, but I would like to share that they are writing a letter and why.
Perfect, yeah.
If
I'm
everyone
not sure
feels
when the
like that's
letter will be written yet,
Yes,
so
yeah.
definitely we can share that we are aware of it and we are going to be advocating for it. Is
So
definitely a
if
good.
everyone feels comfortable.
Is everybody comfortable? Yeah. Okay, I see some head nods. Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Anything else? Trustee Toon?
For key messages, I'd like to share our returning officer and assistant returning officer and highlight our nomination dates as we go to our school councils. That will all be within the nomination date period, so it informs them on whom they can get their paperwork to and get out and get interested in running for these amazing positions that we all sit in right now.
Perfect. Anything else? I think a highlight maybe of our audited financials that were presented today. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, I see head nods. Yes. All right, anything else? We have 4. Okay, seeing none, was there any potential press release items? Trustee Gember.
Bylaw 2.1, whichever one that one is.
2024-2 or 2024-3?
First one.
2024-2?
Yeah.
What?
2024-2
Yep. What did you want the press release around?
that we voted it down.
Okay. Okay, Trustee Charchin?
Perhaps it's already done, but have we had a press release around Trustee Toon's big win?
We did have Carly release it and she did share it out. It wasn't, I don't think, put into the papers unless they picked it up, but she did do a big thing and shared it out.
Okay, okay, that's probably sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Poitras. And then Trustee Long.
Yeah, I just wondered about sharing a press release that we didn't enact a new bylaw. Like, if I feel like a press release would share, like, this is something new that's coming in, this is something new, although we've had our first reading, so sharing that we aren't going through, I don't know, I wasn't sure that we need to do a press release that we've chosen not to enact a bylaw, so I just kind of wondered how everyone felt about it, because we didn't really have a discussion around it, so. Any thoughts?
Trustee Long and then Trustee Kimber.
Yeah, I find that an interesting comment. It's not something we generally do, is make a press release about something we voted down. I'm not sure what kind of statement we're making if, like, I think it's almost like a negative statement about the board, saying, look what the board did. I'm not really comfortable with it. I've never even thought of it.
Trustee Toon?
I think it's important to do a press release for it because we did one for the passing of the first reading, and I don't see it as a negative. If the board chooses not to do something, it's not a negative that they chose not to do it. It's information, and I think that the public helps tell the story. If they think that we just didn't pass second reading or didn't have the discussion, I think we should highlight that the board chose not to move forward with it. It's not a negative.
Trustee Gember?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a negative either. I've seen it in the news that other boards are voting against it. So if it's in the news that other boards are voting against, like, it's just such a hot topic of conversation that's out there right now that they can check us off the box that we've made a decision.
Thank you. Trustee Poitras?
Yeah, so I appreciate the conversation around this, because at first I was like, well, if we're not putting something into place, but it's true that, I mean, people are aware of the bylaw and there's conversation about it, so I think it is good to like have a press release and you know, share, because I don't think it's a negative thing that we voted against it, because that's how this board feels, and as a board, we've decided not to move forward with it for valid reasons, and so, yeah, I think, rather than just leaving it up to chance in the papers and what's going to be said, doing a press release and sharing why we voted against it and sharing that information is a good idea to be able to share our narrative and tell that story like Trustee Toon said. So thank you for the conversation and helping me with the clarity around it. I definitely feel more comfortable having it there with that understanding.
Trustee Long?
Yeah, that makes sense now.
Perfect. All right, we'll leave it right there. Anything else? Trustee Long?
Yeah, I was wondering about a press release about our international students. I know we have our presentations and our key messages, but it would be a good opportunity to promote it. And perhaps we might get some more homestays if we put it in the paper.
Perfect. Is the board comfortable with that? Trustee Yeagas?
Yes, I think that's important because I noticed in both the two papers that we get, the Catholic system is promoting this, and they talk about the students and that. So I think it's important that we get in there too and say something.
Perfect, thanks. All right, anything else? All right, seeing nothing else, I'm going to move in camera. Moving camera, yeah. Can the Board of Trustees go in camera at 11:46? Can I get someone to make that motion, please? Trustee Yeagas? I know. All right, everyone, if we could just move next door.